Hi there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and if you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you're coming back, I really appreciate you stopping in. If you saw my video Wind Down Wednesday on pastels and could we use them in our color book, I gave a little sneak peek of this page. Now, I did this page, the background, in oil pastels. They were the Mungio oil pastels. These. Now, a couple of things to note when you're doing pastels. First of all, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's a messy medium. You get pastels on your hands, you get them on your whatever you're using, whether it's glassine or wax paper, you get them on the sides of your other book. So I would recommend, if you are going to do this, if I was to redo this again, I would probably tack or tape a piece of paper to the opposite side of my book, because while I don't get any transfer now, I have definitely while I was working, touched things. You get it on your hands, and then you get it on the back of the page, or it gets on your little paper behind, and then that gets on this page. So just keep that in mind. And like I said, maybe I'm just a slob, because I'm not the most coordinated of all people that I've ever met. But what I really liked about doing the oil pastel is, one, I like how opaque it is. I love the results. And it was a very fast medium. To do something like this in colored pencils takes a really long time, a lot of layers, and my hands don't exactly love me when I'm done. So I really like that this is an option for me. And I thought about actually coloring the birds with oil pastels as well, and I probably will do so in a future video, but I want to finish this one just using colored pencil. So I've picked out a few colors here. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to go with this one. I know I want to use some greens in the bird and some reddish oranges in the beaks, and really that's about as far as I got. So come along with me and we'll figure it out together. So we're going to start the video with a sped up time lapse of how I did the oil pastel background, and then I'm going to do the TMI challenge, which is 50 questions, and I'll do that while I color the rest of the picture. Alright guys, so let's get started. So as you can see, this is a very sped up version of what I did, but I wanted to share some of my thoughts about it. One, I will definitely be trying this again. As you can see, in real time, it took me 40 minutes to do this background. That's amazing. If I did this in colored pencil, it would take hours and many, many layers. So that alone makes it worth it for me to try things out. Now, some things that I would do differently, or things that I learned, is that you definitely want to prep your page, meaning I would probably take that piece of paper and put two pieces of paper behind this and tape them together, and tape them to my work surface so they don't move around, because as you can see, that paper does move, and when it gets the oil pastel where I go off the edge and it smears on that paper, then when that paper moves, it slides underneath the next page and it can get on the back side of this page. And while that's not necessarily a problem, because this is a one-sided page, it's just something to be aware of and to plan for. Second, what I'm doing right now is I add a little bit more oil pastel, and then on my brush I am using Gamsol to just essentially paint it on. And that's another thing I will be experimenting with, because it may be something that works beautifully in the future. Because like I said, one of the things that I wanted to share with you that I learned and would do differently is there are places in this background where the oil pastel is a little too thick and didn't get really smoothed well initially. And then that can cause a little bit of problems in the end with a little bit of inconsistent results and a look. Now, in my particular set of colors, these are the four consecutive colors, as you can see. So it wasn't like I was jumping by choice. If I were to do another page like this, I would probably try and mix on the palette a middle tone to see if I could get less deviation between the colors. Here I'm just going in and erasing any stray oil pastel that got on the birds. And it worked very well with the exception of a little piece right on the left bird's beak. This last section I'm just trying to kind of smooth the edges by adding a little more pastel and blending them in. Overall, just tidying things up the best that I can. When I'm all done here, I do spray it with a workable fixative before I start my work on the colored pencils. Alright guys, so I thought that since this was a pretty straightforward color along, I would also try and combine hashtag TMI that was designed by Sassy Coloring, and I will try and find her video and link it in the description. So I'll alternate from telling you what I'm doing and then answer 50 questions. I figure we got an hour and a half in this video, so I need a little guidance. So anyway, what I'm doing here is I picked out a pencil that I thought closest matched the light blue, and I'm just going around the edges of the flowers and the birds and all the details and just kind of smoothing things out, filling in any little gaps that there are. Now I am trying out a new system where I have little pieces of paper with the colors on them. These are all going to be Polychromos colored pencils, and the reason I'm doing that is because it takes forever to edit videos when I put the colors on the screen. So we're going to try this out and see how it works. So the first question is, what are you wearing? And currently I'm wearing black leggings and a black t-shirt. I am a very casual gal, and so you will most often find me in jeans and boots or legging pants and t-shirts. Those are kind of my go-tos. If I could live in pajamas, I would. I like comfy clothes. So the second question is, ever been in love? Yes, I currently am in love. I have been married to my husband for 22 years, and yeah, he's my best friend, and we have a great relationship. He supports my quirky coloring habits and is very supportive. So here on screen, I'm just going in and kind of going from a dark to a medium to a light, you know, from red to orange to yellow here on the beak. And then I will go in, I'm going to throw in, spoiler alert, because the tag's not up there, I decide that I want a little darker color, so I think I picked Tuscan red. Oh no, it's Indian red. And I'll go in and deepen up the red tone there. And as you can see right there, in between those lines on the beak, there was a little bit of blue that I didn't get erased, and then I sprayed fixative on it, and so I think I wasn't able to erase it completely because it was a little darker mark, but yeah, here I am darkening things up. But that's just something to pay attention to when you're working with these, because once you apply your workable fixative, while you can continue to work on top of it, you really can't modify the layers underneath. So that's both a pro and a con sometimes. But the third one was, ever had a terrible breakup? So all of my relationships in my younger years, I was always the one to break them off, and usually pretty quickly. But I was married once before, and it was not a good marriage, and so yeah, I would call that a bad breakup. That was a very hard thing for me, as he's the father of my two boys, and that always kind of felt like a failure of sorts, that I couldn't make that work. But it was not a good situation. It was kind of an abusive situation, and so there just comes a point where you got to take care of yourself and walk away. The next one is, how tall are you? I am 5'5", and I'm the shortest in my family, and nobody lets me forget that. How much do I weigh? Well, I'm definitely not going to be sharing that information. So, sorry guys, but there are just things that, a woman doesn't tell. Number 6, do you have any tattoos? So I do have one tattoo. I have a tattoo of an iris on my right hip, and I got that when I was in the military, and we just thought that would be a really good idea to go get a tattoo. Luckily, I was smart enough at the time to consider the fact that I wasn't always going to be lean and have a cute little tush, and so I tried to pick a flower so that as my derriere drooped, the flower could droop and not have it look, crazy, like maybe if it was a Tasmanian devil or something, that might not look as good, droopy or expanded, as the case may be. So, do I have any piercings? So, my ears have been pierced since I was a kid. I don't even know when I got my ears pierced. I was probably 7, 10, I don't know, somewhere in there. I did have my belly button pierced at one point. That is long since healed over. Number 8, OTP. So I had to look this up, and I'm assuming this means, I can't remember what it says. Something, I don't know, one-time pairing or something like that. And I think if I understand this question correctly, it means, is there a fictional character that would be your true love, so to speak? And I had to think about that for a little bit. I am very content in my marriage, so it isn't something that's on my mind. But I will say that there is something about Rip in Yellowstone that I could get behind. He's good looking. He puts up with Beth and all of her sass and her craziness, and would do anything for her, is completely devoted to her. And what girl wouldn't want that? So, yeah, I would probably have to say Rip Wheeler on Yellowstone. Don't judge me. Okay, next, favorite show. Well, I do love Yellowstone. I have enjoyed that season, and it's one of those funny things that it's like Beth. I really enjoy watching Beth. And if you haven't watched this season, she is a take no prisoners kind of gal. I am a peacekeeper. I am a people pleaser. So I guess I'm attracted to that in the sense of, would I want to be her? No, 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 I would not, because she is too much. But I do enjoy it on a fictional level. I mean, who doesn't enjoy that? It's like watching House. The guy's a total a-hole. And yet, you still can't help but like it because, I don't know, because we're all crazy. And just, I don't know what that says about us, that we like those kind of characters. Personally, for me, I think it we all have those moments where we wish we could say stuff like that and get away with it like she does. And so when we see that happen, we're like, yeah, you go get him, girl. But obviously, that's not how I think we should treat people in life. And it's definitely not who I am. So, anyway, but as far as other shows, I really loved Schitt's Creek. I just thought that was so funny, and I've watched that a couple of times. Um, I really have kind of a mixed taste. I like to watch true crime stuff. Once again, I can just see you all judging me for all of thinking, great, she likes serial killers and assholes. um, but seriously, this is one question I could probably really go on and on about. I mean, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, um, movies like Shawshank Redemption, Secondhand Lions, Big Fish. I mean, some of those are Forrest Gump. Like, there's some amazing stuff that's been produced, and my tastes kind of run the gamut. Currently, we're watching The Waltons, if that's any indication. Maybe I'm trying to seek some redemption for, Yellowstone. I don't know. Okay, number 10, favorite band. I really don't have one. As far as music goes, I'm really open musically. I used to listen to a lot of alternative. My husband pretty much only listens to country, so that's usually what we listen to when we're together. I tend to be a little bit more of a book. I like audiobooks, and I use music when, I don't know, sometimes if we're out on the boat or something like that, then we listen to music. But if I'm by myself, I'm almost always have an audiobook. Back to the picture. So my goal here is just to keep, I just wanted to add a little more shading. I wasn't really happy with how things were looking with this guy in terms of, right now I'm feeling like he's got this big yellow scarf around his neck and it's all poofy and weird. So I am gonna kind of keep fiddling with it with adding more green, adding a little darker green, bringing the darker colors out, going over the top. I don't know, I do some things, but wasn't really digging it right there. And I apologize for my head popping in and out too. Okay. Something you miss. So, I miss my little dogger that I had before, Miss Ellie Belly. It's who the channel was named after. His name was Jazz. I had him for about 15 and a half years, and he went everywhere with me. He's pretty much the polar opposite of Ellie. He was mellow. He liked people, absolutely loved people, could care less about other dogs, and he was just a great dog. And so I definitely miss him a lot. And I also miss my Aunt Janet. She was my best friend. When I was a kid, I spent all my summers at her house. She lived in another town. And then later in life, she lived in the same town as I did. And we did a lot of things together. And she passed away at a young age. And I still miss her to this day. On a lighter note, I also miss being thin and young. Favorite song? I really like the song He Stopped Loving Her Today. I think it's a very sad song, but there's something compelling about that. I can't say as I just have that one that gets me going every time. I tend to find a song that I like, and I listen to it quite a bit, and then I'm over it. And I move on to another one. But like I said before, music used to be a lot more of a focal point in my life than it is now. And I still like music, and I think in the right situations I really enjoy it, but I don't listen to it as often as I used to. Okay, number 13. How old are you? So I am currently 54, and I will be 55 this year. And I told my husband the other day when I realized this, I'm like, that's not an age. That's a speed limit. Like, what the heck? How could I be 55? I don't know. I'm sure you guys can all agree. Once you pass like 21, everything is just, I don't know. It all goes downhill. No, I'm just kidding. It really doesn't go downhill. But I will say this. Unless your kids are in their teenage years, time is flying by. In the teenage years, it tends to slow down a little bit, and the days take forever. The years still go pretty quick, but the days are forever. But my kids are a long way from being teenagers, so it seems like I can't even believe it's May already. So anyway, next one, Zodiac sign. So I am a Libra, and I have to say it probably suits me because I've been known to spend a few minutes looking at the McDonald's menu that hasn't changed since forever to decide what I want to order. Not that we eat at McDonald's very often, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like, you go into Baskin Robbins and it's like a 10-minute delay while I figure out what I'm going to order, and then oftentimes order the same thing that I always would. But I do like equality, and I do like fairness, and so I do feel like it's kind of a fitting sign for me because the Libra is the sign of the scales. And I was once told I should have been a lawyer. In fact, when I went through my divorce, my attorney at the time said, "You should become a lawyer. You have the head for it." And I said, no, I could not face the injustice that I would see every day. It would make me crazy. And so, yeah, so no lawyering for me. So what quality do you look for in a partner? So I wasn't looking for Lonnie when I found him, so I can't say as I was seeking anything out there, but I think having a good sense of humor and a good outlook on life is really important. Lonnie really helps ground me. I am a little quicker to temper, quicker to have something annoy me and kind of speak my mind about it. And he is very even tempered. And while my temper might flare momentarily, it goes away just as quickly, and it's never truly aggressive. But he's just really easygoing and always looks on the bright side of life, which is a really nice thing. I've been very grateful to have that in my life. So, favorite quote. I used to really enjoy the quote, "Whether you think you can or not, you're right." Because I think, kind of talking about that same thing we were just speaking on, your attitude is everything. And I remember I always got straight A's in school. And somebody said, "Well, how do you do that?" And I said, "Well, I just could never imagine me not getting a straight A. It never occurred to me that that could happen." And it did happen. I got a B in typing because I couldn't type fast enough. And quite honestly, it crushed me. Which was kind of ironic because my mom could type like a ridiculous amount, like 120 words a minute or something. Like she sounded like a machine gun when she typed. And I was over there hunting and pecking with my one finger. It was, like I said earlier in the video, I'm not the most coordinated person you'll ever meet. Just kidding. Favorite actor? I guess I should have read these and maybe prepared some answers here. I feel like certain actors are great in certain roles, like Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump was amazing. Tim Robbins in Shawshank Redemption, or Morgan Freeman in Shawshank. These are incredible roles. But does that mean I like every Tim Robbins movie or every Tom Hanks movie? Not necessarily. So I guess I don't really have any one particular actor that I'm enamored with. So, favorite color? I would probably have to say green, but I like a variety of colors, but I'm kind of torn between green and blue. And if I had to just pick one very specific color, it would probably be a mix of those two, like a turquoise, kind of like that first turquoise blue, that oil pastel that we put down. Really like that color. But it kind of depends on what it's about, because I think it's funny, my Jazzydoodle logo and everything is based on orange, and orange isn't a color I normally associate with myself, but it really matched the little logo character that I use, my little avatar. And so, but, you know, I drove a green truck for a lot of years, and I do tend to gravitate towards those colors as far as things I like to wear. So you're like, shut up, Wendy. It's a simple question. What's your favorite color? But all right, since you're going to push me really hard, I'll say turquoise blue. But I really like olive green, and I really like cobalt blue too. Okay, next question. Loud music or soft? So when I do listen to music, I tend to listen to it loud because I'm usually doing something like working out or cleaning the house or, having a lot of fun on our boat or something like that. So I probably would listen to it more loudly than softly. Where do you go when you're sad? So I suffer from depression. I've had it for most of my adult life. And I used to think that it was like during my first marriage. I thought maybe it was situational. But sadly, it's something that I've had for a really long time. And it almost makes it harder when you have a good marriage and you have a good life, because then when you get sad and depressed, you're like, what the hell's wrong with me? Because I have nothing to be depressed about when I have a good life and I got great kids and, you know, I've worked hard in my life, and so financially, I wouldn't say we're rich, but we're not living paycheck to paycheck like we did for a lot of years. And believe me, I have been in that situation where you are literally robbing Peter to pay Paul every single week and eating spaghetti and macaroni and cheese and rice and trying to, stretch a dollar. And fortunately, I am not in that current situation, but that makes it all the harder when you do have those times when you are sad. And I tend to go within myself, and I don't want to go out, and I don't want to go do anything. Even the things that I love to do, like coloring and scrapbooking or card making or playing with my dog or whatever, I just don't want to do any of those things. So I would have to say within myself, but if the question is a physical location, I would probably just say stay home. So how long does it take to take a shower? I was in the military. I can take a shower in 3 minutes if I need to. I would say a typical shower is 10 minutes. I'm not, now obviously if you're going to shave your legs, if you're going to deep condition your hair or something like that, then it could take longer. But I would say an average shower is about 10 minutes for me or less. And yeah, so how long does it take to get ready in the morning? I would say I could get ready easily in 20 minutes. And if it was a day that I needed to do something like shave my legs, or maybe I'm going somewhere where I need to spruce up a little bit more, I would say 30 minutes. But it does not take me a long time to get ready. I don't own a ton of clothes or shoes because, as you all know, I put all my money into art supplies. But I wear minimal makeup, usually just a little eyeliner, mascara, touch of foundation here and there as needed, and on an extravagant day, I might blow dry my hair. Maybe straighten it. That would be extreme. That's like, going to a wedding or a funeral or something where I really need to deck myself out. I can see all of you that are beautiful women are just cringing inside. But yeah, I wear the same jewelry every day. So unless it's a special occasion, I don't even change the jewelry. So it really doesn't take me long to get ready. And have I ever been in a physical fight? So when I was in junior high, I guess, a girl challenged me to a fight, and I've never been so scared in all my life. But I showed up at the appointed time, and thank the dear baby Jesus, she did not show up. And so fortunately, the crisis was averted because I would have been trash in a physical fight, most likely. But I did, like I mentioned earlier, my first marriage was abusive, so I have been on the receiving end of a physical fight, though we never got into what I would call a physical fight because I certainly wouldn't take him on. So, okay, number 24. It says turn on. So I'm assuming they want to know what turns me on. I've been married 22 years. I think I've forgotten. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I think just intimacy, and by that I mean having that closeness where you can just be your real self and be who you are in the moment, and know that that's okay and that it's enough. Turn-offs, I don't like people that are mean to other people. Like, the people that you're in the restaurant and the waiter comes by and they're all snippy with them, and they treat them like they're somehow beneath them, and that they're just there to do, the waitress is there to do their bidding. That's a big turnoff to me. Also, I guess in that same line, just people that think that they're all that in a bag of chips. If you're all that in a bag of chips, people know it. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to show them. It exudes from you like cologne or something. I mean, it's just one of those things that I just find that very off-putting when people are like that. All right, we're halfway done. Number 26, the reason I joined YouTube. Over the years, I have learned a lot of different things off of YouTube. And I really wanted to be a part of that group of people that's giving back and sharing their passion with the world, whether that's LawTube, whether it's ColorTube, whether it's, my husband has got on there and figured out what was wrong with the car or the motorcycle or whatever. I just think when people come together and they share their knowledge, it can be a very powerful thing. And I also really, really wanted to be a part of a community that enjoyed doing what I enjoy doing. And that's crafting, coloring, art, paper craft. I've tried a lot of different things over the years. I've tried oil painting. I have done some acrylic stuff. I have done all the mediums I've shared with you guys. I have poured a resin table that is in a friend of ours camper, and I have made various things. I made the world's largest scarf, so crocheting probably isn't one of my strengths, but you know, I really wanted to meet some people that really enjoyed coloring as much as I did, so that I could talk about it with them and discuss what books they were enjoying and what paper they liked and what pens they were using and what's their favorite pencil, because my husband doesn't know any of that stuff, nor does he care. And quite honestly, no one else in my family enjoys it. My mom does a little bit of coloring here and there, but nothing like on the level that we're doing it in terms of frequency or anything like that. So I really hope to meet some other YouTubers along the way that I can collaborate with and can get to know. And I'm really hoping that you will consider dropping me a comment and introducing yourself, and I would love to get to know you as well. I think that's one of the things that I would like to get out of it, and in exchange I'm hoping that some of the knowledge that I've acquired over the last 20 years of doing crafting and fun, that I can share with you, and my journey of learning this coloring pencil medium, I can give back with that. So, fears. I think, like most people, I have a fear of failure. I have a fear of not being enough. I have a fear every time I put out a video that people are going to hate it, that they won't want to watch it, or that they'll not find any value in it. As far as like fears of spiders or heights or anything like that, I really don't have a lot. I don't like, my husband's big into motorcycles, or he has been in the past, and we both really enjoy watching supercross and motorcycle racing, which is kind of crazy. But I don't enjoy being on the back of a motorcycle going 70 miles an hour or even 30 miles an hour. So I guess you would call that a fear. But yeah, my fears tend to be more internalized in terms of just always worrying about people liking me, not being enough, being inadequate. That's probably my biggest fear. The last thing that made me cry, well, I will say that that is lessened a great deal. I was lucky enough or unlucky enough to go through menopause, as some of you ladies can relate. I am completely done at this point, but the 5 years or so that I went through that was, I did my fair share of crying, for sure. Pretty much every commercial on TV made me cry. Now that I've kind of passed that time of my life, I don't find myself crying near as much. The same as, even though I suffer from depression, it usually never actually brings me to full tears. So, the last time you said you love someone this morning, so my husband and I always tell each other, usually more than once a day, that we love each other. I tell my kids that my kids and I tell each other that. My mom and I tell each other that. Luckily, I come from a good, loving family overall, and while we're not ridiculously demonstrative, we're not an uptight family that doesn't show affection either. And I am extremely grateful because when I joined the military, I remember lying in the bunk, and during basic training, there's, God only knows, 30 people in a room, and hearing these women tell their stories. And I realized then and there just exactly how blessed I've been in my life. And over the years, even running a business and having a lot of employees, you really learn that not every family takes as good a care of their family members as my family does. And it's very humbling. But meaning behind your YouTube name. So, Jazzydoodledesigns was named after my little dog Jazz that passed away in 2020. And he was, I mentioned earlier, had him 15 and a half years. He went to work with me every single day. He was just a phenomenal dog. And so when I started my blog, I used to call him Jazzydoodle, and I created the name Jazzydoodledesigns. So when I decided to create a YouTube channel, even though Jazz was gone, I decided to name it Jazzydoodledesigns because that's kind of who I still feel like. I felt like that was still appropriate, even though Ellie is my new mascot and I love her dearly. You always have, I don't know, for me, Jazz will always have a special place in my life that no other dog could ever usurp. So the last book I read, my cousin turned me on to a series by Nora Roberts, and the first one's called The Becoming, and the second one's called The Awakening, and I want to say it's something like the Dragon Trilogy or something like that, but it's kind of like it's like a fantasy novel, maybe. It's a trilogy. There's 3 books, and I'm really enjoying them. It's very well written. There's some kind of magical stuff and like fae and that kind of stuff. There's a little bit of romance. There's a little bit of angst. All the things. I like murder mystery novels, and I like fantasy novels. I like young adult. Sarah J. Maas, Throne of Glass, or even Game of Thrones, although I haven't watched that. I started the books years and years ago, but I couldn't get the next book in the series, and I moved on and never got back to it. But if you like that kind of book, you'd really like this trilogy. So the next one is, what's the book you're currently reading? And that would be The Awakening, which is part 2 of that trilogy. In all fairness, I also like books on... I also like inspirational biographies. I recently read Believe It, and it was about the original maker of It Cosmetics and how it was her story of how she really believed that makeup should be made for real women with real women problems like uneven skin tones, and that weren't models with flawless skin. And it was her journey in trying to convince the industry that by marketing and not using models with flawless skin and perfect, 20 somethings, that the products would sell. And it took her a lot of years and a lot of money and a lot of sacrifice to get to where, and I won't spoil it for you, but it's definitely a success story. And if you notice now, IT Cosmetics are in places like Sephora and whatever other trendy makeup place that there is. That's the only one I can remember the name of, because I don't get my makeup there. But anyway, so I like stuff like that too. The last person I talked to. So the last person I talked to is a lady in Florida that was asking me questions on how to do a job. I give consult to other businesses. I ran an odor removal business, and so I teach other service professionals how to do that. And so I just spoke to her and answered a few of her questions about the job she was on. Number 35, we're making our way, guys. The relationship between you and the person you last texted. One moment, please, while I check. Okay, I'm back. And the last person I texted was my son in Seattle. And we text frequently and call occasionally to check on each other and just to see what each other is up to and give encouragement and to tell each other how much we miss each other, because he lives in Seattle, Washington, and I live just outside of Denver, and so we don't get to see each other very often. Okay, what is my favorite food? So, if you're talking about, I would have to say cheese is my favorite food. I love cheese. Pretty much every kind of cheese except for goat cheese. I don't like goat cheese. I don't know why, because I like other stinky cheeses like feta, and I like Parmesan, and I like Reggiano cheese, and I like blue cheese. So I'm not sure what it is about goat cheese, but I don't like goat cheese. And I've tried it a bunch of different ways, thinking maybe I just got a bad batch. But nope, I just don't like goat cheese. However, if you're talking about like favorite food, like as a cuisine, I would probably say Mexican food. I love Mexican food, and my ex is mom is from Mexico, and she taught me how to make some really authentic Mexican food. And when I'm not being lazy, I know how to make tamales and tortillas from scratch and all the good stuff. But a lot of that stuff takes a little more work than I have time for, so it's more of a special occasion. And I also love me some good Tex-Mex. So, place you want to visit. So, this is a very long list. I love to travel. Love, love, love it. But I've been to Europe. I would definitely go back. I've been to Eastern Europe. I would go back. I would like to visit like Ireland, and I would like to visit, you know, Scotland and those countries. I would love to take a little tour up and spend some time up in there. I would love to go to Australia. I have a number of friends in Australia, and I would love to see that. I would like to go to Canada. I have some friends in Canada and would really enjoy going there. I would like to go to Alaska. Like, how much time do you guys have? Because I've got a list. Okay, by my calculations, we have about 30 minutes to get through the rest of these. So move along, Wendy. Last place you were. So, assuming that you weren't talking about the grocery store, which would probably be the last place I was at, or Hobby Lobby, I had to go buy some paper stumps. And so those were the last local places. Last weekend, I guess it was, we went down and spent 4 days in southern Colorado at a reservoir called Pueblo. And we had absolutely glorious weather. It was in the 70s, and it was just perfect. There wasn't wind, and we had the boat out, and the fishing was fair during the daytime, and at night was really good. And a friend of ours went with us, and so Ellie got to take her first trips on the boat, which was fun. She had a little life vest that looks like a pink it looks like a pink shark, and she was adorable in it. And I'm glad that we bought it because she did get in the water twice. Once making sure to safeguard us from the log floating in the water, and one on her maiden voyage where I think she was just trying to get out of the boat and launched. I wasn't there because I drive the truck around while Lonnie's bringing the boat up, and we just keep the boat in the water for 4 days. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, and it was a really nice trip. I spent almost the entirety coloring at a picnic table, looking out over the lake, and just enjoying the not too hot, not too cold days, and just spending some quality time doing what I enjoy. So that was a lot of fun. Do I have a crush? Well, unless you count Rip Wheeler, which we already discussed, no, I don't think I do. The last time I kissed someone, that would have been my husband. I kissed him goodbye this morning on his way to work. The last time you were insulted? Fortunately in my life this doesn't happen too often, but I was told the other day, and I don't know if you would consider this an insult or not, but I sent somebody a card and they complimented me on the card, followed up with, it was something along the lines of, "You make such beautiful cards. I wish I had your talent and the time." Or how did they phrase it? Something like, they just wish they had the time to do those kind of things. I'm not, I don't know. I felt a little insulted by it. I felt like it was one of those kind of backhanded compliments like, "Wow, you look really nice today for a change." Where they're complimenting you and insulting you at the same time. And maybe I was just being sensitive because I will own it. I am a sensitive person when it comes to certain things. Some things I'm not. Some things I'm not sensitive at all about, but those kind of things I definitely am. And I did feel a little insulted by it. As far as a direct insult, a few years back I was doing a video course I told you I teach people how to do odor removal, and I had done like a Zoom presentation, and someone told me that I was boring. Someone that was part of the developing of the video. The people that were watching the video were grateful because the guy that said that could never stay on topic, and he could be very amusing, but you could spend 2 hours with him and you might possibly cover the topic that you were supposed to because he went down so many rabbit holes. So that was probably the last direct insult I had, and I kind of took it with a grain of salt because yeah, I'm not one of those people that's larger than life, and my older son is hysterical. Like, if you spend a weekend with him, your face hurts because you laugh so much, and he's a very bigger than life kind of guy, and can really entertain someone. And one of these days I will bring him on because I do know that it would be good for the channel, and we might do a little, we've talked about collabing a little bit where, maybe I teach him how to do some sort of art project or something, and it could be amusing. But yeah, so I guess that was the last time I was insulted. So number 42, favorite flavor of sweet. So is this, okay, so on screen, I was debating on whether or not I wanted to add another color to this project, because part of me, it kind of goes against my nature to do these birds all in green, even though I'm varying it and they have different textures and shapes and whatnot. I like using all the colors of the rainbow, but I do know that when I see projects that stick with a color palette and don't get crazy, and stick to just a minimal number. Okay, let me rephrase that. People that stick with a minimal color palette, I do tend to like their artwork a little bit better. So I did stick my toe in the pond and try the blue and decided I didn't like it, and I'm back to the same 4 shades of green that I've been using throughout. So anyway, back on my favorite flavor of sweet. So I'm assuming this is asking me like for a candy or a dessert. So my favorite candy is probably Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, and I like the big cups, the ones that are really thick. To me, when you eat the little miniatures, I know it's the same candy. To me, it doesn't taste the same. So the original, or I do like the ones that are the big cup, where you just get one Reese's cup. You know what I'm talking about? As far as dessert, I love key lime pie. It's probably my weakness. I also like banana cream pie that I make homemade and haven't made for probably 15 years. But I do like that. But key lime is probably my favorite. I do like chocolate. I like all the sweets. Like, who doesn't? But given the choice between sweet and salty, I definitely lean towards salty. So, what instruments do you play? I don't really play any instruments, sadly. Last song you sang. Oh, God. I have no idea. Sometimes when we're traveling, like on the way to the lake or something, my husband and I, we will belt out whatever's on the radio. because we're both tone deaf, and it's a big joke between us. Like, if we sing on off key, but we belt it out, the other one will be like, "Oh, that's awesome! That was a good one. I like that high note you hit." Like totally just making fun of the fact that we can hear that we're off key, but we can't necessarily change it, so we just kind of let it ride. But as to figure out what the last one was, I can't really say. Favorite chat up line. So I'm not sure what this question means. Does this mean like if you're in a bar, like a pickup line? Or is this like what you say to people when you're standing in line at the grocery store? Is this like, hey, how's the weather? Or is this, I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that one. I'm really sorry. The next question is, have you ever used it? And given that I'm not sure what it is, I guess I have never used it. Yeah, sorry. Last time you hung out with anyone. So, like I said, we hung out at the lake with an old friend of ours, and I went out yesterday and took Ellie out. We call it the bun run. We live in a cul-de-sac, and she's, that little terrier part of her, the Yorkie part of her, just loves to chase bunny rabbits, squirrels, and pretend like she's hunting. And so I call it the bun run because I take her outside and I just kind of let her run down to the cul-de-sac where she can't get out and she can't get anywhere because all the yards are fenced and all the neighbors love her and don't care. So she gets the full run and she gets to go down and sniff around, and she's very, very good at, she won't cross the street without my permission. She'll go to the sidewalk and she'll wait for me to give her permission to cross because I have to go out far enough that I can see that there's no cards, and then I give her permission, and if I don't do it fast enough, she barks. And I'm like, come on, come on. But anyway, she goes on her little bun run, and then if I whistle for her or say, Ellie, come, she, like no other dog I've ever owned, she runs back to me just as fast as she ran after the bunny. It really is awesome, and she's done it at the dog park where there was other dogs around. It's very, very rare that she doesn't come like I have a steak waiting for her. It's one of her best attributes. It makes up for all the sass she gives me all day long when she wants me to go play while I'm making videos for you guys. But anyway, back to the original question. It said, who do you hang out with? So our neighbor has a Great Dane that's 120 pounds, 130 pounds. And that's her boyfriend. She loves him. And they chase each other around the yard for, I don't know, 3 minutes. And then he gets bored and she still wants to play. And so she spends the rest of the time trying to get him to play with her again. But he's very tolerant of her, and they do play well together. And it's really amusing because she literally looks like a squirrel next to him because she's 10 pounds and he's 130. And she's all the time trying to cozy up next to him. If he lays down, she tries to go up and lay down next to him. So it is pretty funny. But anyway, I've reached the... Okay, so once again, I went off on a little tangent there. And the question was, who do you hang out? Who was the last person you hung out with? And all of that was to lead into the fact that I spent a good 30-40 minutes chatting with my neighbor. So that was kind of nice. I do like that we live in a nice neighborhood, and we've been really blessed. We've been in our house now 21 years, and when we first moved in, it was a very elderly neighborhood. We were the youngest people on the block. We were the only ones that had kids. And now that my kids are all grown, it's the older people have either passed away or moved into like a nursing home or with their kids or something like that. And new families have moved in, and so we have a lot of younger couples on the block, and more couples that are my age or younger. And so it's really nice that we have such a great neighborhood that really we look out for each other and we enjoy chatting each other up. Okay, next up is favorite piece of jewelry. I would have to say my favorite piece is my wedding ring. I love it. But next up would be the bracelet that you always see on the video. My mom gave me this bracelet. It's a Bali sterling silver bracelet, and I never take it off. I wear it all the time. And then I have several different pieces of jewelry that mean a lot to me. My husband gave me a string of pearls, and I wear those on very special occasions. My son brought me back a pearl from China, and I really like that one. And so, yeah, those are my special occasion jewelry, but my main pieces that I wear every day are the wedding ring set and the sterling silver bracelet. The last question, because I got these kind of out of order here, is the last sport that you played. So the last sport I played, it's been a hot minute, guys. I don't know if maybe you consider it a sport, but we belong to an archery club, or not an archery club. We went, what is that called when you go there weekly? I guess it was like a little tournament where we went once a week and we shot our bows and kept score. So there's targets, they're 3D targets, and so you get points for how close you are to the bullseye if you hit a bullseye versus, the next ring out type of thing. And we did that, and that was probably in just before COVID, so maybe 2019 or 2020. As far as, like, I don't really play any organized sports like tennis or softball or anything anymore. We've played croquet in our yard. I don't know if that counts for a sport, but yeah, I haven't done sports for a lot of years. I played sports in high school, but probably haven't done a whole lot in that way since. So guys, the last question is, who should answer these questions next? I don't know any creators personally, so I don't feel comfortable calling somebody out and asking them to answer 50 questions on YouTube. But I really hope to take part in these. They're called tags, and because I feel like it gives me some guidance as to what to talk about. So I thought about clipping this last segment out It's that time of night where Ellie's getting a little sassy, wants me to quit for the day and play with her toy, so you can hear her jingling in the background, then you hear her squeaking her toy like a maniac, and then my husband calls to say he's on his way home. So I thought I'd share a little of the chaos of my life with you. But anyway, that takes care of all 50 of these questions. It was a TMI challenge. I just hope I haven't given you too much TMI and that you want to run from my channel far, far away. But I will be looking for other challenges because I think this is kind of fun. Maybe I'll even invent one myself because I enjoyed this. But changing topics, I like how this picture is turning out. I never would have done the whole bird in green. That's something that's kind of out of my comfort zone. I would have tended to add another color or two. But I was just afraid that by adding too many colors that I would lose kind of the impact of just the simplicity of having such a big blue background and then those pops of color. So let me know what you think in the comments. So I'm going to try and complete this recording. We're getting some really severe weather. Last night we had 2-inch golf ball size hail. It sounded like a herd of elephants on our roof. It was crazy. I have never experienced that extreme of hail here where I live. So that was pretty intense. And it's rained all day today. And now it's starting to really pick up, and I think we might be getting some thunder and lightning. So if you hear that, that's what this is. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to it at this point. I'm just going to be finishing up the branch and their feet. I will say I start off with the oranges with their feet, and it didn't really look right, so I went back in with the brown. I'm not a super fan of how those turned out. Probably looking at the page now, I probably should have used something like black maybe. Or maybe the dark brown only. I don't know. But it's one of those things. So I'm going to leave you to some music. I will pop back in towards the end. So we'll see you then. So here I'm adding just a little bit of gray around the eyes, just to give it a little depth perception. You could go in as strong as you want. You could even use like a blue, maybe. Or even a darker gray. And there I grabbed the wrong pencil. I thought it was white, but for some reason it was warm gray one. So here I just grabbed my Prismacolor white and just kind of fill in his eyeball there. I do like Prismacolor white no matter what pencils I'm using, but you could use either white. And here I'm just touching up the green, just the same colors I've been using. Now I'm going to come in with my Posca pen and just add a few highlights, kind of touch up that little, the little blue mark that I couldn't get rid of, really brighten up the eyes. Let me know what you think. I decided to cover all the dots with the Posca pen. Well, first I'm going to go around like the highlights of the flowers. I do feel like the white it's one of those looks you either like it or you don't, and maybe I would have liked it a little better if I would have done it differently. But I do think it adds just that little pop of color that you need a little bit. So I decided to go over all of these little dots, and I have mixed thoughts about it. There's a part of me that wonders, should I have not done that? Should I have maybe put my white just as a straight line on these? Not in the dotted areas, but more in the solid areas. And while I like them a lot in the little plumes, I do decide, spoiler alert, that I am going to put them on the body of the bird as well. So I'd be curious what you thought, if you feel like this was a good addition or not. So here I'm just going in and kind of freshening up these black lines. Some of the oil pastel had kind of maybe just smudged those lines a little bit. Not smudged them, that's not, left a little overlay, made them look less prominent. Can't think of the word. And then I go in and just go over all those little lines of the feathers that are coming off and just kind of bringing some attention back to those. I could have used like a fine liner, but I chose to use colored pencil. Really no rhyme or reason other than I just felt like with a good sharp colored pencil it worked just fine. And I like the matte look of it. And you can see occasionally here where I will kind of wipe off my pencil because I'm going through that oil pastel, and sometimes it'll scrape off a little bit of that oil pastel. You wouldn't have to do this step. This step could have been done in white, but it's just something that I felt like I liked darkening up these lines. I just felt like it made them kind of pop off the page a little bit better. So this is just the finishing strokes here. I really appreciate you all stopping by. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't, if you like this content, and I'll see you on the next one.